This is the 5th episode of Conversations with Ed Coleman, and boy, do we have a show for you tonight. Now, before I get started, I want to apologize for last week's show. You know, we're working out of the library here. Comcast is trying to get this thing set up so that the visual is where it should be. The guys that are here are working pretty hard on it, but it's only as good as the equipment. So we're working on getting the equipment, okay? Got a good show for you tonight, a very good show. I have a friend and a returning guest. I thought it was time for him to come in and explain to our public exactly what's going on here in the United States with these finances and what you need to be doing to protect yourself, your family, and your pockets. His name is Avon White. Like I said, he's a friend for the last 20-something years.
20, whatever.
Yeah, and been on the show when we started maybe 15 years ago. And all he's done is getting better at his profession. And he's also a guy that fought the COVID like I did and is back on track. And it's good to see your face, man.
Well, it's good to be here, Ed.
All right. Well, we're going to get started. The guys are going to see about working with this camera a little bit better than last week. The phone number, 804-646-7172. You might want to write that down because I'm sure that you're going to have some questions once we get going. Avon is a financial expert.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, well, you are. You wouldn't be in this business this long if you weren't.
Well, thank you, Ed.
I mean, I know.
We try.
You know, I come from that background
Yes, we do.
myself. Yes. And not that I wasn't an expert, but listen, call up your friends, tell them to tune in. Going to be some good information passed here within the next hour. All right, we're on for an hour tonight. And we thank the guys who are running the equipment here. They're doing the best job they can. And we'll see how it turns out. Avon?
Ed, it's great to be with you again.
Hey, man, listen.
It really is. And even though, as you mentioned, I fought COVID. Yes, I was tapped with COVID. My experience was not as detrimental as yours. I mean, there's a lot of prayer went up for Ed.
I know.
I mean, a lot of prayer. And so many other thousands and then millions of people contracted that. And now that we are in, we say post-pandemic, and it's glad. It's like you say that, but you, yeah, keep the mask closed and everything, and the disinfectant, the Lysol, etc. But it's certainly challenging now that we're in a post-pandemic world.
Yes, and a lot of folks don't really believe it because they don't have it, or the people that they know don't have it, or they didn't get it. But listen, folks, it hasn't gone away, okay? It has not gone away. And I'll go so far as to say what we went through is just the beginning.
Wow. That's quite apocalyptic, and we hope it doesn't happen, but yet from what we have experienced, and I'm speaking we as not just in the United States, but the world.
The world.
We know anything is almost possible. And you mentioned also about financial concerns, etc. The pandemic really changed all of that. It changed everything that we already knew. And so we kind of date ourselves by pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, etc., or COVID, etc. But we can certainly see and feel that we've come a long ways. There's the mere fact that we can have a conversation there and not have the mask on as much is indication of that. But it also, there are lingering things going on in the financial world. During that time period when so many lost lives and livelihood,
that's
those
key.
who may have survived, etc. That's an economic calamity right there.
Cataclysm is the right word.
Yeah. Well, calamity, yeah, really, that right there, but we lost lives, many millions throughout the United States and the world. And then for millions more, myself included, we experienced the pain of COVID, the attack of that disease. But not only did that happen, and certainly there were medications, there were things that had to be done and adjusted and changed, but now that we're past it, the remnants of that is still lingers, not just medically, but also financially.
Yes. Yes, because people were out of the financial realm.
Out of it.
I mean, when you're laid up, I was in for 3.5 months.
You were in the hospital. You didn't even know you were in the world for most of
No,
that.
I was unconscious for 6 weeks.
Yeah, right.
And in the hospital for 3.5 months. And my wife, Charlene, who
bless her.
Most of you have met, major bless her.
Yeah, thank God for saved women. Yes, he did.
She saved my life. They wanted to pull my plug. And she said, no. Pray for him, bring him back. Anyhow, but we're going to talk about finances and what has happened and what is going to happen. There are some things going on, you hear it on the news and you don't pay attention to it. I know I've seen it before, you've seen it before, but never ever like this.
Well, yes, we have several things coming through the pandemic. Medically was one thing, but then of course we know our governmental leaders did a lot of emergency financial moves to try to keep our economy going, which is us. Mm-hmm. We are in the economy, you are the economy, so not only were you combating the ravages of the medical, of the disease itself, but those who did not have COVID per se still were attacked in their finances in some form. You may have kept your job, but you may not have.
And if you kept your job, your salary probably went down because of them needing to hire other people to replace the ones.
So many things went on. So many businesses out of business. So many struggles that we are still now encompassing. And the governmental leaders that were used the best wisdom they could to say we need cash in the system, people need relief, people need, there were things done with unemployment, some extra money. There was a lot of things done, and some may feel it was a giveaway. Some who were perhaps more fortunate and didn't need it may have thought, but these billions, if not trillions of dollars, were put in the economy, in the circulation of things to keep things going as best it could. So everyone was dealing with that. Well, there's some smaller lessons to be gained there that, I like talking about the grandma generation, maybe 2 generations or so ago, because coming through that financial dilemma of, low income, no income, or maybe you had this money coming in or you didn't, should have taught us a lesson that grandma knew, and that is always save you some money. Always save some money.
A rainy day fund.
Always save some money, people.
A rainy day fund.
It's not sexy to talk about saving money. We want to talk about, let's invest money. Let's do things to double our money. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. Mm-hmm. But if you're not saving, you cannot invest. And if you're not saving, when pandemic came along, and then the government did what it could, but you didn't have anything else in the cookie jar. You see? Yes. Always save your money. Second thing grandma generation taught us was, boy, they could say that in a loving way. Yeah. Don't you get in too much debt.
Yeah. Oh, you shouldn't buy that. That costs too much.
Yeah. I'm making money. I can afford it. And it's not always, can I afford, i.e., whatever the payment might be. It's, am I saving money? If I'm not saving much, and then I'm spending because I have it, and I understand that euphoric feeling that money gives us. I mean, really, if someone coming here right now and says, Ed, you are the luckiest man in Richmond, Virginia, you bought a winning lotto ticket. That's a good feeling, I think.
I'd like to experience it.
And I would say, this is my dear friend Ed.
I would like to experience it. I'm sure you would.
So it does give a euphoric feeling, but again, wisdom from the elders, from the generations ahead of us, tell us do not spend all your money. That was before the pandemic. Now we've come through the pandemic. And yes, things are feeling and looking much better economically to some degree. You know, people are back to work. The workforce is there. Unemployment is low, or almost where they want it, etc. All these matrices, these numbers. But that does not erase the fact that individually, if not collectively, you need to save your money and not spend it all. Certainly don't spend it all in debt.
So what's your suggestion for doing that?
Reduce your debt load.
And
I mean, just like you would the pandemic, where we hustled, we did all kinds of things. There were people passing around home remedies to help cure you, do this and that, drink vinegar, whatever. Now, we should have the same urgency to reducing or cutting our debt load. I mean, right now, our federal government is rocking and reeling with what they call the debt ceiling. Will America have enough money in a week or two to pay its bills? And if not, the ramifications of that, there's a lot of politicizing on both sides of that football. But that's on their level. But on the individual, at your house level, on your street level, you need to reduce your debt load.
How would you suggest doing that?
You just pay all you can and spend less. I mean, it sounds so trite, if you would. But for instance, I mean, we are going to eat. And I'm not saying that we don't do anything to enjoy what we call the fruits of our labor. We love to enjoy. Of course we do. We love a good meal. We love good music. We love travel. We love nice clothes and things like that. And that takes money. But if that's all you love, if you don't see yourself, what am I going to do when the cash flow stops flowing, or when it doesn't flow as much? Because it will one day. It doesn't have to be a pandemic. We have talked about that enough. It could be you're blessed to live long enough, get some gray hair like you and I, reach a point that America calls retirement. What that really means is they don't want you working full time anymore, which means you will have less money. Then you better have your own money and less debt.
Okay, now, you're a financial advisor. You said spend less. But when you spend less, what should you do with that money that you save? Where should you put it?
Well, as I mentioned, first, again, attack your debt. And if you are blessed and been frugal and you don't have a tremendous amount of debt or a lot of debt or that type of debt that's at 15, 18, 20% interest, if you don't have much of that, God bless you. Now, you can start with what we call savings.
Okay, makes sense.
You should have savings, and not just economists as well as advisors, etc., have been saying for years, 3 to 6 months income. That might need to be more. We just witnessed when having more money in your own cookie jar would serve you well. So as far as other financial instruments that have been available, do not invest in too much that you don't understand.
Key, very good. Okay.
Now, even though professionals should and would or whatever explain to you, well, what is the stock, what is the bond, and our favorite word used to be out, Bitcoin or those types of, but there are so many other things when they tell you about puts and calls and things of this nature, just spend a little time getting to understand what it is they are asking you to participate in. So your own layman's language for it. And certainly real investment means this is assets or monies that you feel you don't need in your cash flow. You can pay all your bills, have all the fun you want, take your wife out for Mother's Day this coming weekend, spend $400 on a dinner, have a good time. But you got a little slow on that end. All right, $250. Okay. But no, seriously, those types of things where we money or assets are there to enjoy and to, move around the economy. We're not saying not to spend anything. But also you will reach a point where you say, I need some legacy behind me. You should.
Yeah, that's right.
And
with children, grandchildren.
Children, our favorite charities or causes. And we think of philanthropy, we always think of the millionaires and the uber rich billionaires, but what about we thousandaires?
Yeah, there's that. I was listening to the radio yesterday, Howard University station.
Oh yeah, HUR.
Yeah.
Love them.
And they had a guest on there, a woman who is a financier. And when you drive and you move around as much as I do, you hear so much. Some you pay attention to, some you don't.
Yeah.
I cued in on this conversation to the point that when I got home, I did not want to get out of the car.
Wanted to hear the rest.
I mean, this woman started out, she had an office in Manhattan, which costs a lot of money.
That right there.
Okay, and then she started going back and forth to Atlanta. And she said, I need to come out of this $8,000 a month that I'm paying and get something down here for around $2,000 a month. She said, but something told me to do what I tell my clients, look around and invest. She said, Atlanta has an area that up until I got involved with it, as she said, was a waste area.
Wow.
Not waste meaning garbage or trash, meaning housing
Blight.
income, blight, right? She said, so I spoke to the powers that be and asked them how much it would cost to invest in this property. And they told me, and I said, okay, what if I invested this? Which was a lower number, but it was a real number. They granted it to me. She said, I now own a 10 to 15 block area in Atlanta that is being built and designed to service our community.
Wonderful.
Office buildings, residents, restaurants, media places, all in Atlanta. She said, and that proved to be successful. So successful that I started looking for other things to invest in like that. And I thought, we should have a place that we could go and have our meetings and celebrations.
Sure.
Whenever we want to, instead of 1 month out of the year, like the Cape.
Yeah.
Or one area that we could come to every now and then. She said, so I just invested in 1,000-acre property in the Dominican Republic.
Wow, great place.
And it's going to be developed and designed so that if you want to have your meeting, you could come to a place that welcomes you. And, she went through all of this stuff. And I'm listening to her and I'm saying, is this woman crazy? But the way that she was explaining it, I said, you know what? It makes sense. And now you're looking at all of these young African American students who are graduating, who are going into the world, and who are making this kind of money. It's time.
Oh, it's past time. It's been time. That's certainly, she's to be applauded for being such an entrepreneur and someone that has vision. And then something else, the word that we use in the financial world, someone that took risk. So see, with investing, even in the property and in the development of it, I mean, we just announced in Richmond one of the largest development blocks.
With the stadium.
Yeah, with all of that. And that's wonderful coming from government and some business leaders, etc. And one might say, well, that's great for the city of Richmond and those financiers. And that's great for this woman who obviously already had some means and exposure because she was paying $8,000 a month or whatever in New York.
Good client list,
et cetera. But they said, well, I don't make that kind of money. I'm just making, I'm a city cab driver. But do we have cabs anymore? I don't know whether I have no idea. Uber. But still, whatever your level of financial ability, you have to be willing to take risks, which means you might not get the return on the investment, the money, the capital, to put the time even that you think. What would I be like if I don't get that return? What will my life be like financially? Can I make it? Can I this and whatever? And so that's at any level. Even if I'm looking at, let's say, your own personal property, and you're considering, not just upkeep and maintenance, but you're considering adding on. I'm gonna add a room, and the builders are telling you, okay, you can do this and that, Ed, and you'll need about $65,000, and we can do this and we can do that. So you have to decide, is it worth? That's an investment.
Yeah.
That's an investment. What will that do? Not only give you more room and perhaps whatever you and your wife may want with the space, but that's back in your property, and you feel that will yield a return some years later, not immediately. It's long term. Many of us think that investment means I do something with capital or some money. Here we are in May, and I expect to see a statement that says I'm well on my way by December, or sooner.
Fast money.
Superfly. Well, and our judgment gets clouded. I said our, I'm speaking in the big plural, pluralistic term. Clouded by, we hear about someone's success or someone that went to the casino and they won $20,000. But you don't hear whether or not, how much did they risk to hit it. Maybe they were really lucky, like lightning strikes, put in $10 and won $10,000. Maybe. But what I'm saying is, that's a type of investment. That's not really investment.
No, that's luck.
That's luck. Yeah. But that's where we are. So whether it is real estate and development of properties, because again, there's no more land. Right? There's no more land. Yeah. You have what you have until, of course, there's certain things going on now with our glaciers and all of that, and shifting around, and continents beginning to split. So
again,
you might have less land before long. But
flooding. You're right.
But that's where the average person that might not be on that macro level of participating in building the stadium. Oh my gosh, riding around the city of Richmond is exciting. When you see the number of everything being built and remodeled all around, north side, east side, west, I don't care where you go. You just see apartments, you see condominiums, you see businesses, and some things are closing.
What do you attribute the growth factor in Richmond? What do you attribute that to?
Well, I attribute that to, again, back to that pandemic and that money that came out. They love, I say the powers that be in some structure want to always point to all of us millions or whoever number got the little $300 a month extra a week checks, and not at what was called PPP, which was certain types of loans, and in some cases grants, in some cases outright gifts given to businesses that made them flush to keep them floating during the pandemic. I'm not saying that's bad, but they didn't spend all that money.
No.
Now you see it.
Well,
which is good.
And now they're giving $26,000 per employee if you kept people employed during the pandemic.
Well, there's some rules. Not real familiar with all those rules, but you're right. There are some rules you can go back and get some money.
That's the business that can get it.
Because again, it takes that type of investment to keep things going. Why? It goes back in the economy, which means people get jobs. Like I said, you see apartments being built. You stay away from Richmond 2 years.
You won't know when you come back, right?
You will not know almost any part of it.
Yeah.
But now, back to the average, the individual, and all of us think of ourselves as just slightly above average. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and says, I am lower than average.
No.
Whatever that average means. We don't. But and they love to tell us who we are, they being the system of things. Mm-hmm. They call us, and rightfully so, consumers.
Okay.
Break that word down. Consume. See, and we have to stop being consumers of everything, just consuming. Whatever I get, I consume.
Yeah. Very good.
And become producers, as the woman you mentioned. She was a visionary. And you said, well, how can I do that? I'm making $15, $20 an hour. What can I do? What you can do, again, stop consuming. If you're the consumer, I can move you. I move you by virtue of advertising, pricing, you see, and releasing, and keeping that in front of you. Mm. What's being put in front of all consumers now? As I said, look, I'm gonna sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's not a conspiracy because it's happening. Okay, would you have believed a few years ago, let's just say 10 years ago, that cannabis and marijuana and things like that would be becoming legalized in Richmond, Virginia, or less criminalized, I should say?
No,
you wouldn't have
at all.
I wouldn't have either. I'd have bet money. You talking about investing? I'd have put all my chips. Oh, that'll never pass. But it's happening. How about legalized gambling?
That wasn't that far-fetched.
That wasn't
that far-fetched because there was a way for the government to make the money off of the casinos, and there's a part of our society that can sustain the gambling industry because people love to gamble.
People love to, yeah. People love
But by the same token, Las Vegas, Atlantic City have suffered. When you go, I haven't been there recently, but Trump had to close all of his casinos.
Yeah, that's another story.
A whole nother story, but a true story. And a very real one. And when you go up there, I haven't been there recently.
Yeah, they're hurting.
You can see the capital is down because people, again, with the pandemic, didn't have the money to go to Atlantic City or to Las Vegas. Well, Las Vegas, that's a whole nother story.
But they've had their share of financial trials at their level.
My daughter and her friends go to Las Vegas at least 2 or 3 times a year. Mm-hmm. And they go for shows. They don't go to gamble.
Oh, sure.
They go for the shows. And they might go in. Daddy, what do you play when you go in the casino? Well, when I go in the casino, I don't usually go in the casino because I grew up with gambling. My father was a gambler. He had a card game every Friday night.
Okay. Or we used to call them card parties.
Yeah,
red parties.
This is a little more than that.
Yeah,
this was they gambled.
They gambled.
Yeah,
money was on the table.
Big time, big time. And get people they couldn't afford it.
But so, as you pointed out, the government has come up or figured how it can make money. Whenever you hear about casinos, etc., being built, and I only brought that up to show the fact that the powers that be follow the money and create the money. Once they have calculated how they can get their big slice of the pie, then here, everybody can have a piece of pie. So they did it with the casinos. So now we have casino gambling of sorts around Virginia, and then there's a back and forth. It's back on the ballot again, I think, to have the big casinos. But we have that, and we have the other gaming machines, which are now everywhere.
You go, you look.
And which are everywhere. Why? Because the government has figured out how they can get their piece of the pie. The same with the decriminalization, and even some ways lean toward the legalization of cannabis, marijuana, etc.
Just when I get a lung problem.
Yeah, that was really good. Right on time. Right. Now, don't you try it. But I'm saying, again, now, back to the consumer in the midst of that. That's a direction of high-level government and high-level monies moving. We cannot stop it, or we can just just try to have, get some things our way a little bit. But here's what consumers can do. This is not should I do this or should I do not do that. Is take care of their own financial house.
Okay.
Make sure they have insurances.
Key. Okay.
I mean, really, that's boring. Again, it's not sexy. We're not talking about investing in rubies and diamonds. Oh, but that's the other thing there. NFTs, they're called non-fungible tokens. This is a type of computerization, and it gives a value to something that you wouldn't thought had a value. It can do it to this bottle of water.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. That's another whole
I never heard of that one.
See, I mean, that's been out a while. And big money. So when Wall Street goes left and right and up and down and the Dow and so forth, really big money is investing in art, which they always have.
Yeah.
And
But it was a select group that did that.
Yeah, and it's collectibles, things of that nature. And there
Cars.
again, we say, even collectible automobiles, like you said, vintage ones.
Yeah.
Ask Johnny, not Johnny, what is
Jay Leno.
Jay Leno,
Yeah.
this famous guy. But I was really pointing out that they will always have avenues or places to invest money.
Okay.
Pick your avenue. Invest on the level that you can. Invest means I can put this capital out. It's not in my regular cash flow. It's not part of my savings. It's not the money I'm going to use when I take my trip to Vegas. You can pay for that. It's just money I've been blessed to have money left after those things have taken place.
What would you suggest? What vehicle?
Oh, I can't really tell you a vehicle. I can tell you that's when I start. What I say that is the commonality of vehicles people think of is, of course, your bank accounts and CDs, which just in recent times started getting a little flavor to them.
Yeah.
A year or so ago, I don't want a CD. You can't make anything. Then when CDs started paying 4 and 5, oh, that looks real good to me, because the rest of the economy was going really sideways. So those are common things, or regular been there, things, CDs and things of that nature. Then you have, for those who are working, you have your retirement accounts, 401k, all of this stuff, 403bs, all these. And someone told me, said, yeah, I got a 401k at work, but I don't think I'm putting the money in. I said, you're not? Why not? They're not matching. I said, well, that is a shame.
They're not what?
Matching. The employer
Does not put in what they put in.
at this particular company, they do. Many companies do. Many companies say, you put in $1, I'll put in a quarter or 50 cents up to a point. And I tell someone, if your company does that, you should jump on it right away. Listen to what they told you. They'll say, Ed, you put in $1, I'll give you a quarter, guaranteed. You say, well, how many dollars you going to put down? It's like match me. Ed puts in $1, Avon gives him a quarter. Ed puts in $1, you can see how many quarters I'm going to give you, and you get to keep it all. Now, listen.
Heads up.
Yeah, you got $1 that you started with, and you got a quarter. That's 25 cents. 25%.
Yeah, 25%.
And that's guaranteed. You didn't risk hardly anything. All you risked was, I don't have this capital in my pocket to spend because I put it in my plan. 401k, 403b, whatever it might be, And then from there, many advisors and so forth, you can then tell your company where to put your $1 and your quarter to try to make even more return on what you already have.
Yeah, because once you get those 4 quarters, that's another $1.
That's another $1.
And there's another quarter coming.
And if you are, we call conservative, if you don't like the idea that in the world of stocks and bonds and things of that nature, it's a flow. Sometimes your cup is filling up pretty good, and sometimes, like last week, it goes down. So if that really bothers you, and you can't really, I can't take it when it does that, then you don't have to invest in the stocks and bonds. You don't have to take that risk. Now, the person that does take the risk, and their particular stock matures or does well, then they're going to have the gain. What you have is your $1 and your quarter. but you have what you were willing to risk, and he made 25 cents on it. So you see, that's why I said we don't have a set vehicle. It's based upon how you feel about your money, not my money.
Very good.
I used to tell people that we're concerned about the return of your money, not just the return on your money, because it might not return too well for a period of time. Which is where we as an economy may be going into. You've heard that in the news a lot. Are we going to a recession? Are we going to have, inflation? Well, we already got inflation.
Well, you got the politics too.
Well, that all impacts it.
That's a whole nother story, because what's going on now in politics is not something that we haven't seen. It has happened before, but we haven't seen what's going on now in politics. This things with the Republicans and the Democrats is basically unheard of.
And everybody in between.
Some of the things that are being done are just plain stupid.
Wow.
And it's being done vindictively. They're doing stupid things vindictively. Why would they not approve the U.S. budget? Why would that become a political
Well, you can
situation?
listen to them probably this evening, tonight on the news, and they'll tell you why.
There is no reason why. It's politics.
Well, they have reasons. I didn't say I agree with all of them, but there's always reasons, But back to the individual consumers. Here we are, the individual people of Richmond, Henrico, of America even. We're individuals, and we can't really you mentioned that the lady on the radio that you listened to said she spoke to the powers that be. Many of us can't get audience and entrance into the powers that be to even get to talk. You can't even get to see the real senior loan officer at your bank.
I can't.
Well, I said many of us.
Okay.
I said many
I
of
got
us.
you. You're right. Though.
Many people, or they feel they can't, and get a fair shake. They will get a fair listen to. But what you can do is you can be, and I get biblical sometimes. I can't help it. As for me and my house, here's what you can do at your house. I can't do anything about someone else's house and what they've done. But I can make sure that I'm not in as much debt as that. And these people say, well, how much is too much? That sounds like an adjective word. I'll tell you again. Let me put it this way. We were speaking of the return on investment, ROE, or return on equity, as a corporate phrase. But, for instance, if I'm going to put $1,000 out, I expect to make something. When you go to buy your CD, they say, well, if you're in the CD for 1 year, you'll make 5%. And that's in writing. You got your 5%, Well, I'm making 5%, or maybe in my 401k before the pandemic, I was doing pretty good. Maybe I was averaging about 15% growth on my 401k or my investment outside of that. Wonderful. Now, if I'm making 10, 12, 15% on money, which would be great this day and time, but I'm spending it out on a credit card at 15, 18, 22, 25 and higher, do the math. You don't even have to do the math.
So what are you telling your clients now?
Again, I'll go back to reduce your debt load.
So that's
reduce your debt load. Participate in your retirement plans at work. You can ask questions. Many of those plans have websites appended to them where you can go on and see certain models. Of if I do this, what might I expect? And these investments are over time.
That's the secret.
I'm not saying that you don't look at your quarterly return sheet or even more frequently, but you didn't get in that. Put it this way, right now we're in what they call is playoff season, basketball, right? And certainly the coaches and even the players, they look at what's the score a little bit from quarter to quarter or so forth and so on. But the game ain't over. In other words, they're playing the whole game. So when you go in to invest, the game isn't over. Yes, maybe it was a rough April return on your investment. But you didn't go in to come out in April. And that's the other part, and as we near the conclusion here, is when you invest, what's your expected timeline? Or when do you expect to use the returns from your investment? Is it 1 year? Is it 5? Is it 10? And if you try to position those investments with that in mind, I've got 10 years. It doesn't mean I throw all caution and study to the wind and say, well, we won't take a look at it. But it means I'm not as real concerned in the first 2 or 3 months on a 10-year journey.
No, that's very wise. Okay.
Or even, like you travel a lot. You're going from here to Florida. That's what, 10, 12-hour drive to Jacksonville just to get to Jacksonville?
No, we stopped in Savannah.
Yeah, but if
6 hours.
You ride 6 hours,
Yeah.
and then you got 6 more to go.
Yeah.
Well, so you start your journey, but you certainly don't look for your end of your journey
Until
the time is. So time, and if you try to manage your investment, whether it's in stock, bond, or CDs, the person that wanted or could accept risk, could accept the fact that my statement may be up and I'm happy, and it may be down and I'm not so happy, but I'm on a 10-year run here. Mm-hmm. So I look at that. Warren Buffett always talk about buy and hold and so forth.
Yeah, okay.
If that's you.
Yeah, there's something that's comfortable
for you. And if that's not you, there's investments and strategies you should deploy, really.
Well,
and be happy with it.
I think I've said to you, and I've also said to our viewing audience, that I started my sales career.
Oh, yeah.
With life insurance.
I remember you telling me that.
New York Life Insurance. And I used to go into people's homes and sit down, and I'd start a conversation by saying, how much could you put aside on a regular basis for something you really, really wanted?
Oh, great question.
I don't know. What do you mean? No, seriously. I mean, there's got to be something that you want. How much are you willing to put aside for it? You willing to put $100 a month aside? Oh no, I don't know about that. Well, how about $75 a month?
Oh, I see.
All right, and you get to a figure. Now this is a figure that you can put aside for as long as it takes to get to what you want. Now, what about if something happens to you?
What do you mean if something happened to me?
Well, suppose you get sick.
Oh, yeah.
Suppose you lose your job.
Wow.
Suppose your wife or your kids get sick. Suppose you want to move. What? You need a vehicle that you can put your money into that has guaranteed completion. Okay?
Well said. Well said.
That's why I was the salesman of the year.
Yeah, I know. That'll get you there. And those questions and the answers to those questions are still the truth. Truth doesn't change. Truth does not change. We ask questions similar to that, even to our small business owners. We say, what's a small business? Well, the government's definition of small business is anybody with less than 65, I think, employees. You're kind of small. But then they have a revenue attached. But no, if you have a successful business, but it's you and 4 or 5 other people, or you and 8 or 10 people, whatever, but you're the catalyst. I spoke to a lady not long ago. I said, you're it. You make it happen. Yes, you have employees and people who work and do certain tasks, but how long would that make it if you weren't there to make it? That sort of thing. So there comes that time again.
You're the vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm. You are the vehicle.
That's it.
And that's where we tell our individuals, yes, invest, get some stocks, get bonds, get CDs, and when you really get sophisticated or you really want to try something, start going into collectibles like art, sculpture. I don't have any expensive art, but maybe you do. I mean expensive art. I mean the kind that somebody else would say, you paid $4,000, right, Ed? I'll give you $8,000. Well, that's. You see what I'm saying?
Mine is in insurance.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 80 years old in August.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
All right,
You're doing extremely
I'm
wonderful.
kind of enjoying
Yeah.
the results of my endeavors.
That's it. That's it. You mentioned that I word, which is insurance. We all talk insurance when we think about our vehicles. We're buying these beautiful, wonderful electronic and those types of vehicles that are out now, 60, 70, $75,000, and you will not drive that vehicle off the lot without proof of insurance.
And insurance.
Insurance. You pay cash, you can drive it, because then it's yours.
Yeah.
But if you're financing, why? Because the person that's taking the risk on you to pay that loan off wants to make sure if this car is hit by something or whatever happens, we can look to get financially whole some kind of way.
Yeah.
And insurance bridges that gap. Then it's the same thing with insurance on a person's life, insurance on your income. That's what COVID should have taught us. Disability. Oh, I got sick leave. Wonderful. What do you do when sick leave runs out? How many of us know people that have worked for jobs and they had sick leave, but they were sicker longer than the leave?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You better have something to cover that. Cash, savings in the cookie jar, as I call it, or insurance, or both. That says if I can't work, I can still make all these payments.
Well, every generation that I've experienced and historically experienced has a tough period that they go through. That's a life cycle.
That's a life cycle.
The secret to it is learning that this happens when you're young, so that you can prepare for it while you have the time.
Oh, yeah. Certainly, the earlier the better.
Right. And you have these young folks that are graduating now that we can be so proud of. I don't know if you watched on the news the young man that got all of those millions of dollars.
Isn't that exciting?
It's beyond exciting. It's miracle, and it's from hard work and direction. His parents. He was directed, and you saw it. They did a whole. I don't know if you saw the whole report. They went through a list of all of these kids.
Wow.
Who have achieved these kind of results for all of their endeavors in school, and it just makes my head.
There are more of our young people that are doing very well as individuals and as scholars and as even entrepreneurs or people with great ideas. There are more of them than there are of the element of people who don't. We know there are always some, one or two with somebody. And
you want to be rappers?
Whatever. Well, some rappers have really made well. This is what I tell. That's what I suggest to most of the young rappers. Okay, they got that. Look at some of the older rappers. They're not rapping anymore. Look at Jay-Z. If he wants to, he can say 10 words and it's gold, platinum, or whatever.
He does that. That's a friend. Okay. So you met my friend Frank, right?
Yeah. So. That's it. They are now at a point that they can do certain things, but they weren't always there.
No, they started on the street.
They did what they had to do. They took the risk
and put the energy
and sometimes they failed and they got back up again. The list goes on, whether they're athletes, entertainers, or I like to talk about, like you mentioned, the young man that got all the millions in scholarships and the young people who are doing well. They denied themselves. They took a risk. Yeah, they had some fun, but when Avon wanted to go to the beach, they said, "Well, I can't go this weekend. I got a test coming up." So they hung in there with that.
Okay.
So we have to be willing to give up something. That's sweat equity. You have to. If you're not willing, your nature will not return any more to you than you're willing to put out to it. I don't care what it is that you're doing. We marvel at those basketball players that scoop shots. That's not the first time they did that. They spent hours in a gymnasium.
They have a whole thing running on the internet about the $1 million football players who are all broke now.
Oh, well, that comes again from just focusing on the result and not on what it took to get there.
Not on what it took.
And not doing what Grandma told you.
Who would have thought that Joe Namath? You ever see the picture of Joe Namath with the fur coat?
Yeah, way back when he was.
I sold him that coat.
When he was
with the Jets.
The Ivy, what they call him, Ivy Joe or somebody.
Broadway Joe.
Broadway Joe.
The Jets started their.
Yeah.
They moved their camp to Long Island.
And they
at Hofstra University, right by Hofstra University. Mm-hmm. My clothing store was in the town. The Jets started coming into the clothing store.
How marvelous, yeah.
And I used to order clothes from because it was big,
that big guy.
Hey, I got this. I think you might like this. I was at a show and I saw a sign. So the Jets started coming in. I got a fur coat in there just for display to put up. And they came in. He saw that coat. He said, "I want one of those."
Isn't that? Yeah, he could afford it then.
Yeah,
whatever.
He's broke now.
Yeah. But that's management of it. The management of your investment starts when you start investing and saving. That's why I say when you have the diligence to save some money, even when you pay off a debt. Say you paid off your furniture and you were paying $400 a month. Take that $400
and put it somewhere.
Well, I tell people take half of it.
Mm-hmm.
Reward yourself. Give yourself $200 and put $200 somewhere else. Reward yourself because we are creatures. We do like our rewards.
And we like to have a good time. That's what
There's
life
nothing
is all
wrong
about.
with having. There's nothing wrong with.
But use your head.
But use your head, and maybe you'll be blessed to then leave a legacy. And the legacy isn't just the houses and the lands and the life insurance or whatever, the capital that you leave. Certainly that's a great legacy. But the legacy is when your family, close family, and friends say, Ed dropped this on me while he showed me how to do a great show. He showed me how to be an entrepreneur. He showed me in the way he lived, or Grandma showed me in the way she lived and treated people. I learned. That is legacy. And while they are leaving things to us, we're learning all the time, then we should start doing some of those things. Yeah. Start when you're young, trying to save money and save up for what you want and not go in debt. It is easy. There's not many of us, present company, that as we came along from youth and teenager to adult and getting a job that was making some money, sure, the lure of the credit card, not that the credit card is crazy, but if no one teaches you how to manage it, that horse will throw you.
Yes, indeed.
That horse will throw you.
Yeah.
And you go catch HELL, getting back on that, and taming that. You got to tame that horse when you can just. But
give us a parting note.
There are no real secrets.
Yeah.
There aren't. There are no secrets. That we can watch the shows in the morning on the various financial shows, and they can discuss and talk about what's going on that macro level. And you should hear some of that. Just suffice it to know that's still not a secret. Oh yeah, we come up with new assets or things to invest in, and ways to make money, even on a short or long term. Should I buy gold or not buy gold? Well, did you buy any gold last year? No, you didn't. Okay, well, it's higher this year. Then what does that tell you? These things we overanalyze ourselves. Breathe. Enjoy your home, your house, your family. Enjoy the good times, like you said. There will be bad times. Sorry, what you call it? The life cycle.
That's up and down. That's the deal.
But you get ready. I saw a statement. I don't know if it was Facebook or wherever, and it said it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark.
How about that?
In other words, he was prepared. He was told, prepare. Now, many of us are told certain pieces of advice, but don't listen.
Don't listen. And they can't believe that they heard that voice.
They can't believe that they actually heard it, whether it was grandma, grandpa, or the Spirit of God himself.
I've found out over my life that you do get signs.
You do.
God taps you on your shoulder. And if you have any kind of spirit in you and you pay attention, you turn your head and you listen.
You listen.
I've been pronounced dead 3 times.
Well,
I woke up in a body bag in the hospital.
Well, I'm glad you were there. That would have freaked me out.
I woke up in a body bag.
Sounds like an Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Penicillin. I took penicillin. Didn't know I was allergic to it.
See?
Only thing I could remember was my son said, "Daddy, wake up, Daddy, wake up." I woke up in the hospital on the table in a body bag. My body had voided. I mean, it was terrible.
Well, I'm glad you're here now.
Oh, my God, you don't know how glad I am.
And since you're here, that you can then be a testimony to other people. That, again, what things you heard from grandma or any older person tell you before, save your money, pay your debts off ahead of time. If you go ahead and make that a priority. And go ahead and enjoy some of life. And let me tell you, we are rich. Oh no, people say, I'm not uber rich, I'm not Oprah rich, but there are so many people in the world, you've traveled, you've seen them, that would love to have the food
How about
that you got in your refrigerator that you're going to throw out.
How about that?
My wife and I play that favorite game that all married people after a while play when you get real low. What we gonna eat this evening?
Yeah,
but there's so many. Yeah, but there's so many people can't ask that question.
Yeah.
They go like, "What the hell do we have to eat?"
Yeah.
We're rich. Bless somebody else. Pay it forward. It sounds corny. It works, Ed.
It does work, and it goes full circle. If you live that way, you'll live that way.
If you live that way, you'll live that way.
That's right.
Thank you again, Ed, for this conversation.
Pleasure. You want to give the viewing audience any information on you and your business?
Well,
you got time? You got to give it. Yeah.
Not really. Well, what I mean by that is I'm Avon White. I've been in the community for 40 years, and I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed working and living through other people's lives also, and trying to assist them with the information of whether you're going to have insurance and how to arrange certain things. Again, I'd love to use that phrase, it's not sexy. But when someone dies, what's the first question they ask, Ed?
Would they leave you?
Yeah, would they leave you? Did he have any insurance?
Yep. Okay. All right, folks. This has been a good conversation. This is the last conversation. Next week will be a rerun because it's Mother's Day weekend, and we're going to kind of celebrate that. I will be back on in August, and we're going to be looking to see if we can upgrade the equipment so you can get a better view and you can get more participation going. I thank those of you who have tuned in. If you couldn't get in and you want to see it and somebody told you that it was on, if you go to Facebook, my Facebook, in 2 days it'll be up, and it'll be up on YouTube under Conversations with Ed Coleman on YouTube.
On YouTube.
On
Good.
YouTube.
I'd like to see some of the older ones.
All right. Oh, yeah, all of them up there, about 20 of them.
Oh, I want to see that.
Okay. And we thank you, those of you who did tune in, and those of you who will tune in on Facebook and on YouTube. And I appreciate you, and my wife appreciates you. Stay tuned for that documentary that's coming up on Tropical Beat with Mona.
Oh,
it's going to be a whole documentary of her 15, 20 years of producing the top music in reggae and our world travels. West Africa, South Africa, all of the Caribbean, Europe, and the United States. Excellent series, excellent documentary coming up. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And good night, Ed. And thank you again. Stay well.
Hey, you too,
look marvelous.
My COVID partner.
I'm telling you, we in that fraternity.
And alive, yeah.
And alive. COVID alive. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, sir.